Started. So, welcome everyone to the second version of the LinkedIn Leaders League. We have the same people from last time, plus we're joined from Atlanta. I believe that she's there by Rachel Simon. Welcome to you, Rachel. Thank you for being here.
What a treat.
And everyone is wearing their Friday Shout shirts. I'm honored that you've all taken part in this. Thank you so much. Okay, so last time we had a really kind of fun, informal, no agenda chat, general topics about LinkedIn. I think we covered some really good stuff. I know a couple of people have got some stuff to bring to the table today. So I don't know who wants to get started. Rachel, you're the newbie. Would you like to
Sure.
kick us off with something to discuss about LinkedIn? What have you got for us?
I have a what would you do for everybody.
Okay,
So
let's do it.
I recently connected with somebody, and this person has never engaged with any of my content. And twice this week, I have been mass tagged on their post, like probably 50 names in a comment.
Yeah.
The first time I untagged myself today, I have not yet done that. Do you keep untagging yourself, unfollow the person, or message them to say, would you mind please not tagging me, or block them?
Interesting. Oh,
John just
froze.
Okay, you're back. You're back, John. You just froze up there for a second.
Oh, did I? Okay, fine. Well, I heard all of Rachel's question, and I've certainly got some opinions about this one, but I'd interested to see what other people do with this. As for untagging yourself, I used to do that. I don't bother anymore because we kind of know from research that Richard van der Blom did last year that if you tag a load of people and they don't respond, if more than 50% don't respond, then there's probably an algorithmic penalty on that person doing the tagging. So that in itself is punishment enough. So I don't feel the need to untag. And it kind of, untagging feels like a little bit of a passive aggressive move. Like if I were going to do that, why wouldn't I also just then DM the person, and then you might get into bit of an awkward situation. Certainly would unfollow if someone keeps doing that, especially if we haven't engaged with each other. I'm not going to remove a connection and block, though. I think that might be a little bit too far. What do you think, Jeff, Gillian? What would you do?
Yeah, I'm a little bit different. I don't. It doesn't happen to me very often because most of the folks that I network with don't do that. So I don't get mass tagged very often, Rachel. But there are occasions when I will get too many, and I have untagged myself a few times. But I agree with John. I think that the thing is that that's not gonna. They may not even notice. Okay, right. So that's kind of more for your own benefit than theirs. So I would actually end up DMing the person and saying, hey, would you mind not making me a tag wall, kind of person, and that's fine. Unfollowing them, well, you don't get much of a choice of seeing their content then, okay? So therefore, if you're ever going to engage, you kind of have to continue to follow them. And again, it would be, the starting the DM conversation may actually start, more of a conversation than the posts would. From that perspective. So, but I definitely wouldn't unblock them either. I mean, that's not a blockable offense.
Yeah, no,
that's just a bad judgment in etiquette, as far as I'm concerned.
And I untagged myself the first time more because I just didn't feel like dealing with the notifications because it's annoying.
Well, a lot of times instead of untagging myself, what I'll do is just mute the post.
Oh, smart. Good idea.
Yeah.
That way I don't see any more of it.
Yeah. How do you deal with this, Brenda?
I actually have a blog and I shared it with you guys in comments.
Yeah.
I don't know if you'd be open to me sharing it on screen just to talk through the technique.
Absolutely. You go.
Do I have share privileges or no?
I might need to
on security, you probably have to allow.
Let's see if there's an option to allow share screen.
Under security,
I think you got to make me a co-host to share.
Okay.
Okay. Well,
is there another way to, John?
Will that change the recording?
I don't think
it shouldn't.
So.
Okay. You're now host, Brenda.
Oh, okay.
You can share your screen.
Uh-oh. I can steer this thing off. Go, All right, so I'm trying to share my screen right now. All right, so this I created because I was like, similar to you, Rachel, I'm like, why do these people keep tagging me in the post? And I kind of go through, the do you get tagged all the time? It's from people you don't really know. In the beginning, I was like, oh my gosh, I've made it. People are tagging me. They think I'm taggable. And then they're tagging you to get more reach for your post. So I guess it's kind of flattering that they're doing it, but then there's like 50 people and it's kind of annoying. And then I'm like, okay, they're benefiting from my network. They're jumping on my coattails a little bit. And, it's a one-way thing, take. And sometimes I remove the tag and I would tell people that, but that took time. It takes time to go to the post and remove the tag. And then I would just ignore them. And then I kind of went through and I'm like, you know what? If they're going to tag me on the post, here's what I'm going to do. So I have this blurb now that I've created, and thank you to John Esperian. And I'm just going to demonstrate this. How do I do this? I think if I go into the comment on the post, I can show you. So there's this wonderful program called Text Expander where you can put little messaging snippets. So I've taken that blurb from the blog and I have a little tag, a thing I just said spam. Whoops, I can't spell spam tag. And then Text Expander writes the whole thing out for me. Wow. So thank you for including a mention of me on your post. And then I'm just going to replace this and say Rachel, whoever it was that tagged me. And I'm using this as an opportunity to bring people back to my post. I don't care that people don't do it, but I want them to know that I saw that I was tagged and I'm going to be self-promotional all over them. Now, personally, it kind of makes me feel good and it helps me to stay true to my brand on, who I am. And I don't want to stoop to their level or be snide or, whatever. But if they continue to do this and they just never respond, or they might thank me for that comment or something like that, then I might private message them and I might just say, hey, Jeff, saw that you've been tagging me on the post and I'm trying to figure out if there's a reason. So I'm going to now give them the chance to respond. And there's this one person in particular. And I said, are you looking for help with LinkedIn strategy and trying to use, tagging me as a way to get more reach? If so, maybe we can talk. So I'm like pivoting the conversation to how I can help them, potentially as a client. And this one guy in particular, he's like, no, I really don't need more leads on LinkedIn. I'm just, using it as a way of spreading the word. And then I might send him this blog at that point. And, hopefully he's going to re-educate himself. And I say, I typically am very cautious about who I tag. I will only tag if it's relevant to that person. Otherwise, it might annoy the people because they're getting notifications. I hope you don't mind that I'm sharing this with you. So I'm kind of trying to soften that up a little bit. So I don't know, that's just an approach. And if you guys like the technique, feel free to plagiarize it and use it for yourself.
I love it.
It's a very good idea. And let's just say hello to Kevin, who's joined us. How are we doing, Kevin? Thanks for being here, buddy.
Pretty good. And my apologies for being so late.
It's okay.
Nothing quite works on the island like it should anywhere else. And so that's just how it is. So I'm now using my phone because the Wi-Fi on my laptop wouldn't function at all. So
okay, no problem.
I'm here with you.
Thanks for being here, Kevin.
I'm in a little bit of a public space, but we'll go from there.
Okay, cool. So Brenda's comment there about how she responds to being put into a tag wall, that makes me think, I wonder, do you know if hashtags in comments are now searchable? Some people say they are. I haven't found that they are searchable for me, because I just wonder whether if you included a special hashtag in that boilerplate text that you've got, you can kind of look back to see how many times you've used that response, or who are the people on whose comments you've actually used that approach.
Yeah.
And maybe you can gain some insight in that, but you'd need a special hashtag or some special word that you wouldn't use elsewhere.
Well, you could search for it, John, right? Like if you clicked on the hashtag, could it, or are you saying it won't allow
if it's in the comments? If it's in the comments.
Some people have said that hashtags are now searchable in comments, but every time I've tried, I have not found that to be true.
John, I've noticed that they're being indexed externally. So Google is indexing even comments with hashtags.
Okay.
So you can find a comment through Google. So it is open to index, but there was a short period where you could actually do the LinkedIn search box and you could actually search and find comments with the hashtag, but that stopped probably about 3 months ago.
Yeah.
So you can't get it now in the results of the comments. And I think it was probably because, you do a search result, right? And there would just be too much information on that hashtag if it was also bringing up every comment that maybe had a hashtag in it. And so I think that went away about 3 months ago, but it's still being indexed on Google.
Okay. Now, you didn't hear Rachel's question at the top of the room, but she was basically asking how do you deal with being put into a tag wall? If someone tags you with 50 other people, what are you doing? Are you replying? Are you unfollowing the person? Are you untagging yourself? Are you blocking the person? Are you DMing them? What do you do when that happens to you? And it must have happened to you plenty of times.
It kind of depends. If I know the individual and it made sense, right? What they were posting about is something that I am definitely interested in. I don't mind that so much. Now, when you say a wall, if that's 10, if it's 100, right, then that's maybe a little different. But I do have a few people that do that all the time. I don't mind because they do it with my knowledge and they know when they're doing it, it's something I'm interested in. Now, if it's somebody I don't know, which I have happened quite often, where you're either tagged individually or you're tagged as a wall, I still will go look at it. And, I think Brenda does this where, if it's just totally off the wall, she uses it as kind of a commercial space, ad space, right? And I'll do the same thing. I will go in there and I will put, I would actually, I would comment back and here's my, my 3 favorite articles, right? New LinkedIn features for 2021, the top 10, hidden resources, and then LinkedIn features for 2020. And I put that in there and that's my comment back. And so hopefully I get some new people to look at those articles. Okay. And that's kind of how I was using. I know Brenda uses it kind of the same way, but she exposes other things within her business, in that space. And that's a way to get them to either not tag you again, right? Or mention, and that's why maybe I confused what we were talking about, but not to mention you again in that process, unless they're okay with that. And so to me, that's kind of the trade-off. Now, if it's something that's just off the wall, I don't agree with, I will then, basically deactivate that mention, and so it kind of goes dead in that tag. And that usually sends a signal to that individual not to do that again. It seems to work.
Okay. I mean, I like Brenda's approach. It feels like someone's hit a tennis shot at you and you're volleying it back into their court. And it's like, okay, gotcha. What are you going to do now? Because no one can really accuse you of being salesy when you were brought into a conversation you didn't ask to be part of.
I think that's perfect. I think it was a brilliant idea, and I've taken it on with just my little article list.
Yeah.
I love that add-on, Kevin. I think I'm going to do that. I might say, here are 3 things I'm working on. Like, here's my upcoming webinar. Here's my LinkedIn Live with John Aspirian. You want to check it out. And then here's I like using it for whatever you're selling right now. I love that little add-on.
Yeah. I don't have time to reply to your comments because I'm busy on my YouTube channel right now.
I love it. I love it, Brenda. But the first thing that came to mind when you said that is like, fight spam with spam.
Well, you know what though? But at least you might be getting a couple of views from it. I don't mind. I mean, if they're it takes just as much effort to go in and remove the tag. And because of that text expander tool, which is such a brilliant invention, John, I love, they give me a report. They're like, this is how many hours of keystrokes you there. And all I need to know is my tag acronym. I put that in, it literally takes me less time than it would take to go back and remove the tag and do all the other stuff.
Yeah.
So, or you can ignore it, then no time is spent. Yeah.
I'm guessing you all know that if you do go and unfollow someone, and I do this regularly, I unfollow most of the people I'm connected with. If you unfollow someone, then if they tag you in a post or in a comment, you will not get a notification about it. So I don't know if you're aware of that, but it means that very often I'll go and do a sweep of my posts and I'll see that someone has replied, and because I've unfollowed them, I won't have received a notification about that, even if they've tagged me, which means that if they tag me on a completely unrelated post, unless I'm doing a search for that mention, I'm not going to see anything in my notifications. that's easy for me because I've got a weird name. So doing a search for my own name in posts always returns stuff that mentions me. It's not so easy if you've got a common name and you unfollow people. You're going to be missing a lot of notifications. So it's something to be aware of.
Is it still clickable though, John? When they tag you, is it still clickable?
Yes, it is, and it will seem to them as though they've sent me a note, a notification. They'll think that they have, when in fact they don't know that I've unfollowed them, and therefore they haven't. But because because I'm doing a sweep for mentions of my name in posts, I'm always going to see those. But if someone has tagged me in a comment and I've unfollowed them on someone else's post, the chances of me seeing that are actually very, very low. So I don't like the idea of missing out on stuff. But then if I follow everyone that I'm connected with, I'm just going to see a whole load of content that I'm just not interested in, and I don't have enough time to go through all of that.
But I honestly don't see that happening when because I unfollow very few people. So I'm still telling the algorithm in my feed who I want to see because I'm either tagging them or etc. I mean, thank goodness you haven't unfollowed me, John, because I wanted your input on something the other day. And, I wanted you to put a link from one of your posts in there, and so if I'd done that, it would have just gone into the ether and nothing would have happened, which would have been okay because I'm on to the next comment and those kind of things as well. Anyway.
I have a rule. If you have the shirt, I'm never unfollowing you. It's as simple as that.
Again, well, that's a good addendum to the next thing here, because okay, so for example, if you follow a person, that doesn't mean you're necessarily going to see everything that they say.
No, absolutely.
It's just not possible. Okay, and secondly, the other one that I think people misunderstand a great deal is following a hashtag. I honestly can't find much evidence that following a hashtag puts a lot of content in my feed. Okay?
It definitely puts a lot more in your feed than it did a year ago.
Okay.
I'm seeing a lot of, I follow a couple of the big hashtags and I am starting to see that stuff referred into my feed, but it's more rare than common. And usually it's, that's not the only relevancy signal that would put it into my feed. So it'd be something like, you follow this hashtag and you're also following Rachel and she's posted something, so we're going to put it in your feed. Okay, well,
that makes sense, because again, it's just anecdotal evidence, because I don't do as detailed of the experiments as you do. But whenever I want to see something about a particular subject or a hashtag that I follow, I got to go to my hashtag list and bring them up one at a time. I actually have to take the time to look at that content. Yeah. Which is not a big deal. If I'm interested, I'm interested. But
have you guys used the mute feature? Because I've found that that's just failed spectacularly.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
You mean like muting a post? I do it all the time.
No. Muting a person.
Oh
no, I've tried to mute notifications.
That doesn't work. It just
Rachel keeps popping up even though I mute her.
Oh, nice guy.
Get rid of me, Kevin.
I've never seen it work. One thing on hashtags that I've been playing with a couple of people that kept telling me, I'm not seeing your content. I'm not seeing your content. I want to see your content. Is I have 3 custom hashtags. I got them to follow all 3. And now they said I'm absolutely in their feed, everything I post.
Right. That's interesting.
Okay.
So maybe it's the combination of 3, like lock it down kind of thing,
I've got one of my friends never sees my content in her feed, even though we regularly DM each other and we follow each other. We've never disconnected. We've never done any of that rubbish stuff. But she never sees my stuff. The only time that she saw my stuff regularly is when I was scheduling my posts for one of my experiments through Buffer. So that content is exactly the same as stuff I was posting natively. And like that month, she saw all my stuff. Then I stopped and she stopped seeing it again. And I was like, how is this possible? It doesn't make any sense.
Is it a timing thing?
So weird.
No, well,
were you setting it out at a particular time that maybe you normally wouldn't post?
No, I was setting, in that experiment, I was setting everything to go out at 8:45 a.m., but that's usually around the same time that I post anyway. There was nothing special about the timing there. It was really, really weird.
And your stuff is
strange.
John, your stuff is always like top of my newsfeed, because in the
see
morning I get up and like when I'm drinking coffee, I scroll through my mobile app just to see what's up. So that's like 6:30 my time, which is what, like early afternoon for you?
Yeah.
And your content's always like right at the top.
And your company page.
Maybe
your company stuff actually gets more exposure than your regular stuff. I did not see your Friday shop this morning, which I was really surprised. It did not pop up in my feed.
Yeah, that's weird because I mean you're always one of the first commenters on there, Jeff. So it's odd that
I didn't comment today because I didn't see it.
But on the point about muting, now I tried to use this because they released this not that long ago, and I thought this is great because I hate the idea of blocking people unless they really have offended me, and yet there are some content creators whose success is kind of like means that I always see their stuff in my feed, or either not necessarily directly, but usually referred from one of my connections.
Yeah. And
before the introduction of the mute feature, I would have to block that person. It's the only way of seeing it. And that's awkward because that seems to be a value judgment on the person. And it isn't in almost every case. It's just, I respect what you're doing. I just don't want to see it.
John, is that mute? Is it at the user level or is it at a post level? Are you able to show that on screen or no?
You can, the mute option appears on a post.
On a post.
It will appear where you can say, you can either unfollow the person who's referred the thing into your feed, or you can mute the person whose content it is. And to me, they are different features, right? If you unfollow a person, that means that you are currently following them and you no longer want to see their stuff. Whereas muting, to me, means I've never followed this person. I don't want to block them, but I also don't want to see their content in my feed. That's logically how it works, except I tried it. It didn't work. I kept seeing, I'm not going to name names, but I kept seeing content from the same people. And I'm thinking, I've already muted you. Why am I seeing your stuff? I raised a support ticket and LinkedIn were basically telling me that the functionality is the same as the unfollow functionality. And I'm saying, but you can't have two differently labeled things that do the same thing. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So
and if you're not following them anyway, you can't unfollow them, right?
Yeah, that the support person is trying to tell me, well, just unfollow the person. And I'm saying, I've never followed the person. I've never connected with the person. I'm just seeing their stuff and I don't want to block them. And they're like, no, it works like this. So either it's broken or the support person doesn't really have a clue what they're talking about.
I don't think the mute works though, even for notifications, because like there was a post from that new community head of community guy, Andre, whatever his last name is, about his dog. It was like a really cute post, like caption this picture of my dog. And I commented on it and I turned off notifications. Like I was like, stop telling me notifications. And I've been constantly getting notifications about that post.
Yes, I've seen that I've sometimes had to mute posts like 2 or 3 times before it gets the message.
That's possible. I have too.
Yeah.
It's annoying because I've got a feeling there are different categories of muting a post. So if the thing is referred into your feed because of a reaction and you mute that, it will mute reactions to the post. But if you mute a comment, it'll mute comments to the post. It's not kind of taking the umbrella approach of saying, okay, I just don't want to see this.
Don't want the post. Yeah.
So I think maybe there's some of that going on.
Yeah. Are they still using the mute feature? Because I'm not even seeing it as an option on posts.
Oh yeah, I mute posts.
You will only see it if there's someone that you're not connected with and you don't follow on a post. So if you go and scroll your feed and you find something from a second or third level connection that has been referred into your feed by someone you do follow, then you should see when you click the 3 dots, you'll see unfollow the person who referred it and mute the person that you're not connected with and don't follow at all. You should see both of those options.
Wait, one of the differences, John, is where I will end up muting the post many times is in the notifications.
Yeah,
I use the 3 dots in the notifications to do that. I'm not in the post. I just basically, because the notification is there, I'm going, I don't want to be notified about this anymore. So I mute the post in the notification, and that seems to work a lot better.
That's interesting because I've never done that. I've done it on the post, but never in notifications. I always try
and do it in notifications.
Yeah.
That makes sense because that's where you want to mute, no longer getting the notification.
Exactly. That's
Right.
So I do, and during the time I was on holiday, I did something that John says he does all the time, which is I was deleting notifications. I normally never ever delete a notification. I click on it and go do something with it most of the time. But in most of those instances, I was going, oh, I'm sorry. There is one instance where I delete every single time now. And that's when I see someone did a story. I'm sorry. I don't care. I'm sorry, I don't care. I mean, it's only going to be there for 24 hours anyway, and most of it doesn't mean a thing to me. So
does anybody know when a story, what qualifies to make a story show up in a notification on your desktop?
There's no rhyme or reason to that. I mean, I've been seeing recently, I've been seeing lots of notifications for Elia Francis's stories, but there's nothing, I've looked at them and there's nothing that differentiates them from any other story. So I don't know why LinkedIn is particularly picking on hers to notify me. It's really weird. I wish there were a magic trick for being able to prompt them. But of course, the thing that we really want to see if stories are going to work is you view someone's profile and then it says that person also has a story. And they should be doing this. I predict that they will do it soon, because the user interface furniture for cover story is exactly the same as desktop story mode.
Yeah.
And so given that they've implemented one, that I would think that what they'll do, this is my prediction, is when you go to someone's profile, you'll see their nice smiling face and you'll see the orange ring around them. And if you click the orange ring, at the moment, you get their cover story, and then there's a link to the side that says view their profile photo. And maybe they'll add a third category to that to say view their latest story. And then it comes up in the same user interface furniture that you've already got. That would make sense logically, but I think I'd get a lot more views. I mean, whenever I've done stories, I get between 100 and 150 views, and I've got 36,000 followers. That's a terrible viewing rate, and the response rate is like I get like a handful of a few people hit the heart button, and one person comments with good story or something. I just don't get any responses at all, so it's not worth my time to do it.
Yeah, I don't know why they don't put a stories feed on desktop.
Like on Facebook, like put it at the top.
It just runs across the top. You got your feed going this way and your written stuff. You have your story feed going across. Yeah. I might actually view some, because majority of the time I'm on desktop.
Yeah,
I'm not on mobile.
That's the thing. They have to incorporate it.
So that feed is already in place in mobile, but I tend not to look too much there. But I suppose if it were on desktop, I probably would look at it more often. But
yeah, and it might be interesting.
Associating it with your profile, I think, would be a lot more of a powerful method.
Yeah. So here's what confuses me when we're talking about stories, because this kind of came up in a post I was doing yesterday, is that in order to do the swipe up link on a story, you have to be either a company page, or you have to do it from your personal profile and have 5,000 or followers or connections. And everybody was asking, like, why 5,000 to just have a link? Like, that just seems overkill. To get on
Brenda's rockstar list, obviously.
but then you think about creator mode. You could turn creator mode on with 10 followers. Like, it doesn't matter. To me, that doesn't make sense. Why can you be a creator, and turn on creator mode and have barely any followers, but you need 5,000 followers to have a link in a story? If LinkedIn wants stories to take off, I think they should drop down. They shouldn't have those regulations. Why even have that?
You also need the follow first mode enabled.
Yep.
For links to work. I can see why you need to have a certain bare minimum, because the see more, the swipe up link is not revealed to the person until they swipe up. So there's no way of telling what the destination is going to be. So if you were someone with a dodgy account, you could send someone anywhere and they wouldn't know until they've actually swiped up to go to the link. There's no way of previewing what the link will be. You don't see the URL. I discussed this with Mark Williams a while ago, and we both agreed that there is no way of determining where the link's going to take you. So if I took you, for example, to a page that looked like the LinkedIn sign-in page, and it was the first time you were using a swipe up link on a story, you could think, oh, right, it's logged me out. Okay, I'll log just back in. Great, I've got your username and password now. And then you don't see that story again because it's going to vanish in 24 hours. And meanwhile, I've just collected a load of details. And I didn't actually
that's
do
a good reason
dodgy.
to do something like that.
Yeah,
But that's what people do, right?
I didn't do a proof of concept of this, but I did think about creating a fake website that actually looks exactly like the LinkedIn sign-in page, just to demonstrate to my followers, don't follow these links because look, this is a white hat trick. I've just tricked you. I'm not going to do anything with that information, but just be careful on what you swipe up on. You can only do that with people you trust. And if someone comes along with 2 followers and does that to you and then deletes their account the next day and sets up another one, they could maybe go through and gather loads of dodgy information. It's very unlikely to happen, but it's a frailty in the system because normally you see link intent. And with this, it's masked from you, so that there's a bit of a security concern.
But isn't that done in a regular post too, John? Because if you put your URL in the post, it shrinks it down to that sort of LinkedIn tidy post link.
Well, it does if your URL is longer than 26 characters, but even then, you can get that short URL and you can put it into getlinkinfo.com and it will tell you where the destination of that link is. So if you're ultra security conscious, you can always tell what the destination is going to be. You don't get that opportunity on stories. There's just no way of telling where you're going to go.
Swipe and it takes you right there.
Yep.
When you get that shortened LinkedIn URL, that actually goes through Google Backbone and checks destination. So it checks destination for malicious code on arrival on the page. So LinkedIn, because now it's implemented Google Backbone, now is doing that. So sometimes if you ever click on something within LinkedIn, and it actually will have a pop-up that comes up and says, we found malicious code on this page through our association with Google. So everything that has the short link, the LinkedIn URL that's shortened, that's all been pre-checked. So technically they could do that even with this system with, if they were doing that where you could put that in, they could pre-check those. That would solve that issue. But I know they're doing that, and that's a good thing.
I'm just theorizing as to why they put the 5,000. I mean, 5,000 does seem like a high bar to entry.
Very high, especially because there was a lot of people that were like 2,500. Like they really feel they have a sizable network, because the idea usually is once you hit 500, you're kind of in the game, so to speak.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be interesting to know what the median user count is for the average, the connection count is for the average LinkedIn member, because it's probably fewer than 500 people.
Yeah,
and so anyone who's, let's say, got 2,000 is well above. They're probably in the top 10% or something.
I saw that somewhere. There's a stat page that actually has that, but I can't remember where right now.
I'd be interested to know.
Yeah, looking up LinkedIn, you might even be able to Google it.
Maybe. Yeah. I've got a question for you about one of my current bugbears is about understanding what these new creator managers are doing on LinkedIn. Now, a number of them have posted to say, hey, I've got this job as a creator manager. I'm delighted to be taking on this new role. And I always comment to say, congratulations on getting the job. What do you do? What are your day-to-day activities? Because it's not at all clear from LinkedIn's job description how these people are meant to be helping creators. Now, one of my connections, when I replied to one of these people who took on the creator manager role, she then replied to my reply to say, I'm also curious. That creator manager set up a Zoom call with that person, completely ignored me, but set up a Zoom call with that person. And that person has posted, I think today or yesterday, with some of the outcomes of that call, all of which, none of which surprised me. It was all basic stuff like make sure you comment on other people's stuff. Don't worry about putting links in your posts. It's not going to be penalized. All the stuff that we kind of pretty much know is true. The last point they made was interesting, the question was about, does turning on creator mode damage the visibility of your posts? And the response was, I can't remember word for word, but it was something like, there was some, don't be quick to turn it off
Oh, I saw.
There were some bugs.
That was from LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn was like,
there were some bugs.
whoa, it's gonna be cool, you guys. We promise. Don't go away.
Yeah.
It's really
We
cool.
fix the glitches.
Yeah, there were some bugs in the early days, and you know, it should now be doing what creator mode was intended to do and support creators. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's a kind of an admission of a failure, because I've seen some drop in engagement, but I don't know whether you guys are on creator mode and what you've seen. So let's talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah. What does support creator mode mean? What does creator mode supporting you mean? Okay. Again, we had this conversation the very first time we talked, and I'm still maintaining that creator mode has nothing to do with reach of a post. Okay. Now, you know, I'll point it over to this way to Rachel. Okay, because Rachel just did a poll that was talking about what is it, you know, what makes a creator on LinkedIn? Okay, is it one post a week? Is it 3 to 5 posts a week? Is it, you know, posting 5 times a day? Okay, et cetera. I'll be interested in seeing the results of that, because again, I don't think frequency has anything to do with it either. Okay, because we've all gone through that process. So here's my tale. Here's my tale of 2 cities. Here's my tale of 2 posts. Okay, I've had creator mode on for quite some time. Okay. I didn't post for at least a week, and I thought, well, that'll probably affect me a little bit as far as the algorithm is concerned. But on Monday, I posted something when I got back. Okay, the post took off. I was amazed. Okay, it's had about 5,500 views, about 151 reactions, 162 comments, some of which, of course, are mine. Okay, and that was really great. I was really glad to see that. I mean, you know, so the interaction was still there. Now, did creator mode have anything to do with that? I doubt it, because 2 days later, on Wednesday, I posted another post, and it fell flat on its face. The one with my acronym for networking. Okay, I thought that was pretty cool, folks. I'm sorry, I spent some time doing that, but you know, that one went blink. No, nothing. Hello, no. Is anybody? No. You're out there. I know you are. I can hear you breathing. Okay, you know, kind of thing. But it's only got like 650 views, 29 reactions, and 28 comments. Now the thing about it is, I don't think creator mode had anything to do with any of that. Okay, I think it is all about the content. It's all about what was there. It's all about the number of reactions you get, and all about the number of interaction you get. And oh, by the way, the one that I did on Monday is still getting comments and still getting views. The view count is going up faster on the one I did on Monday than it is on the one I did on Wednesday. And I just got a comment about it earlier this morning before I got on this call. So you convince me otherwise, folks, but I don't think creator mode has a thing to do with what my content does out there on LinkedIn. I love creator mode. I like what it's done to my profile. I would love to have creator mode on steroids, which would mean I could actually reorder my own profile in any section and put whatever I wanted up at the top. That's the key here, flexibility, folks. Okay. And oh, by the way, I opened a case here just a couple of days ago as well, and I've already gotten a response back to it. And it's the typical response: we'll pass your suggestion along to our product, you know, and if enough people say that they want it. My suggestion was, look, allow people to keep creator mode on and leave the connect button on, because some people want it to say connect instead of follow. Yeah. And by the way, maybe that was a bug that they were talking about, like you mentioned before, John, but that was the way it was. I just turned creator mode on, and I turned the follow button off. Yeah. Okay. You could do that, but now the text and the help says if you turn the follow button off, it also turns off creator mode. Right. Mm-hmm. And I suggested that they make it 2 separate things. Mm-hmm. So
I'm curious about these creator managers as well, because I haven't seen them really engaging with anybody. And so it would seem to me that if your job is to support creators, one thing that supports creators is getting to know them, engaging with their content and connecting with them. I mean, I've sent a few connection requests to some of them and I've gotten no response. So I don't know if y'all have done the same thing, but that seems odd to me.
I've made comments, and about all I ever get back is a reaction, like no comment back. And you would think, again, if they're trying to build, you know, better creators and nurturing the conversation is part of that, right? You would think they would. You would think they would do more than a reaction back, because to me, that's kind of like, yeah, thanks for visiting. It's a drive-by, you know, it's not there's no commitment on their part. Now, I will say that the head of this creator group, I'm supposed to have a call with them this week. So that's interesting. And that was because I reached out InMail wise and asked for one. So
okay.
We'll see what comes out of it.
I'd be really interested in if you could pull out some kind of job spec from those people. Like, you turn up at your desk and do what? What is your day-to-day role? Are you going searching for content? Are you trying to make, take improvements, suggestions for improvement for the platform? What are you doing? How are you earning your money? And
I've got a job posting for one I can send to you, the actual posting for the job, which kind of goes through some of that. And it is, I mean, their task is within, I guess, their scope. They get assigned kind of a scope is to develop the creators within there, to assist them in creating better content. And so, that's their task. But I can send you that when I get back to Dallas in a couple of days. I'll send you the job posting, which kind of goes through, like any job posting, right? The nuts and bolts of what they do every day. But that's the gist of it, is they're supposed to develop those creators so early on that nobody knows what they're doing yet.
Right. Okay. Yeah. My hope is that this isn't just some way of supporting LinkedIn marketing solutions, because they call it LinkedIn marketing solutions, but it's basically, let's think of ways that you can place ads with us. That's essentially what their job is to do. And I hope that this isn't just a way of saying, hey, have you thought about reaching a targeted audience to support your business by using LinkedIn ads? Because we're all interested in growing organically, and maybe in the future that won't be possible, but it is currently still possible. We still see people blowing up on LinkedIn and they haven't paid a penny for ads. So it can be done. It is being done, and people shouldn't be forced to go down the ads route if they don't want to do that.
Yeah, and I think that, like, you look at SSI, right? SSI is a tool, not really to tell you how you're doing on LinkedIn. It's a tool to sell you Navigator, because the two middle components are all about using Navigator. That's how you bring those scores up. Yeah, this could be something similar, but the difference is they don't assign anybody, to promote SSI, whereas here they're actually putting staff in to, service creators. So I think it may be different. I don't think this will be tied to the kind of the pay to play. I think that still exists, but I think their real thought is to really create better content, because that's what people come to LinkedIn for, right? Is to learn, to be entertained, or whatever it is. So I think that they know that there's a lot of content being created, but a lot of it's the same content, or it's not all that exciting, or it's a reshare of a bunch of stuff, And I think what they're really trying to do is, how do we really take a group that's fairly small and help them make better original content, so more people will spend more time on LinkedIn. But I think that's the main driver. If
I've got an audience with these people, then the first thing I would tell them is to look at the fix list that I came up with, because there's loads of stuff that is just plain broken, and everyone's user experience would be better. You'd have longer sessions if the stuff just worked. So go and fix that stuff, and people will hang around for longer, and therefore you'll get better results from everyone on LinkedIn, not just the creators. That's what I would tell them.
They can even fix it and call it a new feature, because it actually works, right? Yeah. And that's one of their drivers right now, is they've got to create new features. Part of their assignment by Microsoft is to do that quarterly. Yeah. So that would be a perfect way to figure out a list of new features.
I don't know whether you had a chance to take a look at the people you may know changes that were on their engineering blog, but that's it's a weird thing that they're spending some time reorganizing that. So basically everyone has a panel on their profile called people you may know, and it appears in the My Network tab as well. And now that there's some kind of ranking that goes on, so that they make sure that they try and put people who actually would be relevant to you. That makes sense. But now they're saying that there's going to be an extra layer of ranking that goes on top of that is related to the number of invitations that person has received in a week. and so that people who are basically really, really popular and have received loads of invitations won't be ranked highly in that people you may know search. Now, I read that as meaning that it will be people who've received a lot of invitations and who haven't done anything with them. But actually, reading it again, it doesn't really say that. It could just be people who've just received a lot of invitations. Maybe they're dealing with them all really efficiently. Those people might still be de-ranked in the people you may know to kind of even the playing field. It seems like a weird thing to do, and it seems like a weird thing to devote resources to. Like, that is not the pressing concern that LinkedIn members have, is the relevancy of people in the people you may know tab, is it? So it's like, why are you spending time on that? Why not just maybe make stories better for people, or make notifications work better, or unfollowing people work better? I don't know. What do you think?
And to me, that feature to me is who you know is more for, I think, somebody just getting into LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Right. They don't know who their network is yet, and they're not sure who's out there. So to me, maybe what they're trying to do is to get those who have, initially joined LinkedIn to get more active, right? The more connections you have, the more network you have when you begin, the more likely you are probably to stay on LinkedIn. So to me, the who you know was always for the novice, the beginner who just got into LinkedIn and doesn't know who to connect with yet. And so I think that's to stimulate, the person coming in so that they'll stay for the long run. They're like, oh, I now have 500 connections and I never even thought about them, right? So I think that's what that's aimed at. It's not aimed at us because we already know who we want to know, right? I've never seen anything in that list that I go, oh, wow, I forgot about Joe or Jane. I ought to connect with them. I've never seen anything like that. I've seen interesting people, but I've never seen anybody that I wanted to already be connected to who I wasn't. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I suspect that people who are, I don't know how many people are finding me through people you may know, but I suspect that a large proportion of those are just going through and just going for the connect option rather than sending me messages. It's just like, okay, I've got a grid of people. LinkedIn is saying I need to know these people. Great. It's going to be connect, follow, connect, follow. And there's no relationship being built there. There's no like, oh, I read your profile and here's why I'm trying to connect with you. It's just, okay, you recommended 20 people to me. I'm just going to go and do that now.
And sometimes people actually say, I'm connecting with you because LinkedIn suggested we connect. And it's like, that's it. That's their invitation notice.
Yeah. Or I get ones from like,
if it ain't broke, don't fix it category. Okay. The thing that's always been broke to me is the clicking the connect button and it's sending the invitation without giving you a chance to do the message in the first place. If LinkedIn would just take that and fix that piece of it, there'd be a lot more interaction in the beginning of a connection process in the first place, right?
Especially on mobile. I always get in trouble on mobile.
That makes no sense.
It should be required.
Doesn't make any sense.
Invite.
That function makes no sense. Oh, sorry, Kevin's.
No, you're good.
That they know that the majority of users are on mobile yet, and they keep saying always personalize, yet most users, I think, don't know how to do that because it's like, you got to dig for it. And we make mistakes too.
I do it all the time.
Right. I'm like, damn it, I did it again.
I mean, I did go through a period where if someone would send me a blank invitation, I might just, because you can reply to people before you accept, and say, did you just try to connect with me through mobile? Did you know that blah, 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 blah? I've kind of put that in my about statement now. And yet, I know that people aren't reading that because I'm still getting fewer than 15% of people using my secret word, even though my headline says, find my secret word. So most people are not reading my about statement. I think most people just don't know that you can personalize on mobile, or maybe they just don't care. It's just a bit of a numbers game. And I can't tell what your motives are if you don't say anything. I might just be a number to you, and I don't want to be a number to anyone, really.
I have a quick question. I keep getting prompted every time I open up LinkedIn to update my contact information. And I'm just wondering, is that just me because I'm traveling around the world, or is other people having that? Like, I don't know why it's completely filled out. Everything is good. So I'm not really sure why I keep getting that message from LinkedIn.
I haven't received that for ages, but don't sync your contacts, because you'll probably end up just at some point, getting them lots of spam from LinkedIn saying, Gillian's trying to invite you.
Right.
Why don't you get on LinkedIn?
I've found that happens if you have only one email and only one phone number on your LinkedIn account. They will ask you to update, and their concept is that's too risky, right? They want you to have a backup email and a backup potentially phone number, but at least a backup email, a second one. Once you do that, that notification goes away. I only did that because I removed a bunch of emails that were in there that were old. Then I no longer had access to them, even though people can find you through them. I just said, why are they there? And I took it out, and I had to go back and add a second email to stop that notification. So it worked for me. Don't know if it works for everybody. So Jillian, if that's your situation, you might try that.
Okay, so maybe that's a best practice
to do anyway.
So is that a best practice? What are you guys doing in terms of email and phone number? Are you putting that in your contact info or not?
Well, I've got 2 email addresses, and I've only got 1 mobile phone number, but I've also got I've got the 2-factor authentication turned on, which I'm sure you must do, because otherwise you wouldn't have LinkedIn Live access, because that's one of the qualifying conditions. So
I don't think I have that on. I don't think I have that on.
Really? Okay. Because when they revised the form, that became mandatory it said, if you don't have this, we will reject your application. So kind of like, you better go and do it. But I think everyone should do that. I mean, your LinkedIn account is too valuable for you to risk it being hacked. So if you've got 2FA on, it doesn't guarantee, because maybe someone can use some clever spoofing thing, but it's about as strong as it gets. So I would certainly turn that on. Everyone who's watching this, go and inspect your settings, make sure that your email address and your telephone number are up to date. Make sure you've got 2-factor authentication turned on. It means that if you go somewhere else, you try and sign in, it'll say, hey, we're going to send a text message to your mobile phone to make sure that it's really you, because the last thing you want is someone getting access to your LinkedIn account. It's really bad news if that happens.
Something to that
And
too,
the
John.
authenticator apps are safer than the SMS.
Sure. Yeah.
SMS phones are getting hacked all the time now, so they can receive that SMS same time you have, and they are accessing accounts based on 2-step SMS, whereas the applicator app or that is much safer. Yeah. And Microsoft has one that works really well with LinkedIn.
Cool. Okay. I'm going to go and set that up. Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah.
Any special tips for the email? Like, are you just showing it to contacts only? Like, is there any recommendation for your email? I have mine on, but I'm just wondering best practices for other people, what you do with your
mine's
email.
Account only.
The primary is only connections. Yeah.
Connections only. Sorry. Yeah.
I actually have mine posted in my graphic, and I also posted in my about section. But in the about section, I parse the email so that spam bots don't pick it up. I don't get any spam from it. I've done that with my phone number formatted in a way that the spam bots do not pick up. I've never received any spam from it. And that's been that way for close to 10 years.
How do you do that with your phone number, Kevin?
With my phone number, I use +1, right? Negative, and then the phone number, and you can either put dots or negatives in that phone number. A spam bot will run through LinkedIn looking for things that look like an email, look like a phone number. They won't bring either one back because it would bring back too much junk. It only wants the stuff that exactly fits the equation. So it goes right past it. And so it allows you to post it, be safe with it, And again, the other option is I put it in my background banner app, the background banner at the top. Only a human can write that down. Got it. So good. Nobody can, pick it up and start spamming you with that. And rarely do spammers send humans out to write stuff down, Yeah, so it seems to work, and it's fairly protective. Interesting enough, I do have on my invite that you have to have my email to invite me. What's beautiful about that, a box pops up, and right above it, if you're on desktop, is my banner with my email in it. People still can't get it. So John, you talk about your secret word. This thing's sitting right on top of the little box that says enter the email, and it's got the email right above them.
Yeah, people don't read, do they?
Yeah, they send me an email going, I don't have your email. How do I do this? And I'll usually say, look above. It's right there in the banner. And so it is interesting.
I think it's probably worthy of a post to remind people about some of those best practices with email addresses, telephone numbers, and so forth. Okay, we're at the top of the hour, and it's time for me to run. But thank you, everyone, for coming along. And we'll get this published soon. And I hope that we're going to get loads of questions from people, and maybe that can inform the next discussion that we have, because I'm sure that we're going to meet again, perhaps on LinkedIn Live. So once again, thanks for being here, and I will catch you all soon.
Okay.
Cheers, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Take care, weekend, folks.
Sorry for being late.